The Georgia Bulldogs host the Oklahoma Sooners for the first time ever. That's an interesting one. So we had to do a crossover edition to prepare y'all for the fall.
You are Locked On College Crossover, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
What's going on, Locked On Podcast listeners? We got Clint Chamblin over there at Locked On Bulldogs. I am Jay Smith from Locked On Sooners. We appreciate you all tuning in every single day. We got some fun stuff for you. We're going to talk about Brent Venables taking on Mike Bobo, that Sooner defense versus that Georgia offense. We're going to flip it before that and talk about Kirby Smart and Glenn Schumann taking on Ben Arbuckle. But first, Oklahoma's going to Georgia between the hedges for the first time in program history. We're going to try to get revenge from that Rose Bowl because, that was, don't you stop it. Yes.
Third best game that I've ever seen Georgia play. Third best game ever.
So, let's talk about that, of course. Clint, thank you for connecting with me. I love that we can sit here and talk some ball. It's always a good time. But, hey.
So good.
How does the Georgia fans feel about Oklahoma coming to town?
Look, I know we got Alabama on the schedule. I know we got clean old-fashioned hate. I know we got the rivalry, just over and over and over. And Florida's on the schedule. I get it. But if y'all don't realize that this game against Oklahoma, it's earlier in the season than some of the other stuff. These are two teams, Georgia fans, probably come game week in season, you're not going to like my prediction because this is going to be a close game. Because I actually think Oklahoma has a run this year where they're going to mow down some people. I like what Brent Venables is doing. I can't believe I'm saying that. I literally last year, I couldn't believe I was saying it. I like what he's doing. He's getting together a roster. So Georgia fans, Oklahoma fans, this is going to be a game upon games this year. And low key, if you're not circling this as an opportunity to see must-watch television within college football, it's going to be. This game may be a preview of what could be later on in the playoffs, what could be later on in the SEC championship if things go right. Because I am high on these two teams this year against their schedule. I'm not high on Texas A&M. I think their schedules are not as favorable as what Oklahoma has and the roster. So, Dog fans, this is the real deal early on in the season. Jay, tell me I'm wrong. I'm not wrong, am I?
Absolutely not. And it's funny you say that because Sooner Nation feels the exact same way. This game, to me, could be a precursor to what playoffs could look like, what SEC championship game possibly could look like. Sooner fans are very high on this team. Sooner fans are also very high on Georgia because what's funny is when I looked at us going against each other, this is the only team that we play with full continuity on their staff and the majority of the roster. Oklahoma is the exact same way. Same coordinators, right? Majority of your position staff is still there. We had a couple of changes in which they're for the better. Just going to say that out loud. But we got our quarterback coming back, right? We've got most of our running backs. We got most of our offensive line returning. And that line was actually good as the season progressed. Yeah. The defensive line, we may have lost a couple of starters, but we've got one of the best ones in the country. Yeah, linebacker room, our field general is still there. The secondary actually looks like one of the better ones in the both teams are built like that. Like you guys, linebacker room is obscene. The defensive line is nasty with some good young talent too, right? Mm-hmm. Like some young players that I remember even Oklahoma was trying to go after at one point. Secondary, still going to be really good. It's going to be a fun one. My biggest question, honestly, for you all, and we'll dive even deeper in the next segment on it, is really been your wide receiver room. That is where I have a question for Georgia. I'm curious. No Branch. I mean,
nope.
I'm curious of what that looks like for you all.
That is a great question. We are curious as well. Kirby Smart, if you truly and honestly, we are just as curious because I think I have the answer for it. And we can break down what they're going to do. But I really quickly want to say these two teams are eerily similar. It's terrifying. Strong up the middle. You talked about defensive line for Georgia. The linebacker, the front seven of Georgia is eerily reminiscent of what the playoff runs, championship runs were all about. The returning production. Elijah Griffin, by the way, had a higher freshman grade than Jalen Carter did, and he's coming back. They were graded the same out of high school. Like, Elijah Griffin's the real deal. He's going to be a menace this year. Stone for y'all is going to be a menace this year. I think that we are built very oddly similarly. The offensive lines are great. And shame on me. I thought last year the running back was going to have a massive drop off, transferring in from Cal and saying, hey, clearly they have a huge depth problem if he's coming in. Turns out, oh no, he couldn't hack it with the running back. Y'all got some good running backs, and people aren't ready for this. And this is not an excuse, and he will never say this, and you will never say this because we play football. John Mateer's injury really, really, really impacted last year. That's, again, no excuses. Oklahoma lost. He will say the same thing, and he did. But at the end of the day, he's back healthy this year, and John Mateer is not just a running quarterback any longer. He was last year, and that's what the playoff run was like. Oh, I don't know if they can make it. Y'all have defense. The secondary is. I don't know as much about the secondary. Secondary for us, it needs to prove themselves. We got some studs, but they got to step up.
Yeah.
Wide receiver. It's the only question that we have on our team. Defense, go talk to Bill Connolly, go talk to anybody else. Defense is going to be top in the nation. Like, we're going to be top 10 easy in the nation. Offensive line and running game, this might be, you talked about the Rose Bowl. Georgia came back in that game because we hit 2 all-world running backs that got us in with huge gap runs. It might be the same this year. Frazier and Bowens have that kind of capability. So, yeah, Kirby Smart is letting the young guys play. Didn't bring in any transfer except for Isaiah Canyon from Georgia Tech, but that's because he looked at I really like the pickup. He's saying our 5-star kids we got, Wiley, I think he's fine. Talon Taylor, I think he's fine. They're going to produce. They're unproven right now. And so that's where I can't guarantee nothing. But man, Gunner Stockton's back. Again, so many similarities. Gunner Stockton's been running quarterback. Okay, well, he actually proved he had no interceptions in the fourth quarter, had like a 97.9 QBR in those comeback wins, like something like 8 touchdowns, 0 interceptions in the fourth quarter. He's nails. I think John Mateer has that same ability. What's the question that surrounds Oklahoma team? What's the thing that's unknown? You said wide receiver for us. What's unknown to you guys?
The biggest unknown for Oklahoma right now is a combination of, one, the health of John Mateer, as you mentioned, right? He actually talked about it a couple of times, a couple of interviews he's done. He went and met with Josh Allen's biometric specialist, Chris Hess. And Chris Hess, they basically took 3-dimensional videos of his throwing, and they ran it through the data, and they've been working on his mechanics to get him back to what he was, because when he did injure his thumb, he leaned more heavily on his sidearm because he said it was like throwing a baseball missing 2 fingers. He couldn't grip it underneath to get the throw right, so he was using his hands to contort it, to hold it properly and keep it secure and get the ball launched. And so now he's trying to get back to even his Washington State capabilities and an improved version of that. So yeah, Mateer and his health, critical, and in reading defenses with that. The next thing, honestly, offensive line is a question because of youth, but they spent most of the season together playing. We have 5 dudes return with 6 or more starts last season. And then you bring in Marion Harris from Arkansas, who has had 24 starts in the SEC, and he's shown a leadership presence that helps with a lot of the younger players. And then now we've got tight ends. We snatched up Hayden Hansen from Florida. We grabbed a young guy in Rocky Beers who statistically fits the profile of a tight end that's going to be able to make some catches. And so our biggest question has been, how will this offensive line open up enough of the hole so these running backs can get going? And then depth on the defensive line has been a question, but most people have said, well, Brent Venables is the defensive coordinator, and he's got Ty Bates in the middle. We really don't think that that's a concern, but hey, we still got a lot of young guys behind there, similar to you all. Like you mentioned about Elijah Griffin, how good he was, and now he's going to be the starting guy in the middle. We've got some young guys, some young high 4-stars, like a Trent Wilson who's ready to play more, and Nigel Smith who's ready to play more. And if we can get them going, And then, of course, replacing R. Mason Thomas is probably one of the
Yes.
bigger pieces, right? Now, Taylor Wine stepped up very well in the matchup against Tennessee, against Alabama. I mean, he's the one that caused the fumble against Alabama that gave us the lead. He's the starter now. It's now, what does all those depth pieces and everything look like? And speaking of depth pieces, we got to talk about it because, as I mentioned, Oklahoma's offense going to be battling Glenn Schumann as well as Kirby Smart and that genius defense. Let's dive into that next up here on Locked On Bulldogs, Locked On Sooners. Support for today's episode comes from Indeed Sponsored Jobs. When workplace chaos hits and you need the right hire, Indeed Sponsored Jobs help connect employers with candidates who match specific needs like skills, certification, and location. So less time is spent really searching and more time is spent finding the right fit. Like, people are, those qualities that you need, they're finding them there on Indeed right now. And in the minute I've been talking to you, companies like yours have made 27 hires on Indeed according to Indeed data worldwide. So as we're talking about recruiting, Brent Venables, Jim Nagy, their goal is to find the players that fit the needs, the skills, and all of that. And that's important. And that's what Indeed Sponsored Jobs can do to help you all today. Spend less time searching, more time actually interviewing candidates who check all your boxes. Less stress, less time, more search, more results. When you need the right person to cut through the chaos, it's the job for Indeed Sponsored Jobs. And listeners of this show will get $75 sponsored job credit to help get your job the premium status it deserves at Indeed.com/podcast. So go to Indeed.com/podcast right now. Support our show and say you heard about Indeed on the podcast. Indeed.com/podcast. Terms and conditions apply. Need to hire? This is a job for Indeed Sponsored Jobs. And once again, thank you for making Locked On Bulldogs and Locked On Sooners your first listen every single day. And shout out to all our everydayers out there. Speaking of which, Everydayers Club, if you have not hung out with us in the Discord, you can check it out. You can support your favorite channels, your favorite podcasts, lockedonpodcast.com/everydayers. Go find Bulldogs. Go in there. It's $50 a year or $5 a month, and you get a 7-day free trial. And you can get ad-free episodes. Plus, you can get the beautiful Discord where we go in there and we argue SEC ball nonstop. So come join us. Links, of course, in the description below. Clint, Kirby Smart, that defense, like you said, the defense for you all is really not too much of a question besides the secondary. And this was the thing that fascinated me about you all. Like I said, we're talking ball here. That's the best part about doing this is we can actually talk ball. Y'all brought in 2 players really out of the portal that y'all actually really expect to play, I think. One, a strong safety possibly was at Riddle, as well as a nickel in Barnes. But literally everybody else is y'all dudes. That's amazing. That sounds like a program that is a well-oiled machine.
100%. It was so funny. I love talking ball with people across all spectrums. People come in and try to talk to me about Kirby Smart doesn't develop transfers, wide receivers in particular. And I had to bring up Branch and I'd bring up Cager back in the day and yada, yada, yada. Anyway, but this was so where they're like, well, Kirby Smart, he doesn't go in the transfer. He's so out of touch. And I'm like, wow, what a weird flex to tell me that he actually has homegrown talent that's better. Like, you're telling me that Kirby Smart how bad for him. Now, insane. He is very, very, very targeted. He's very, very picky when he goes in the transfer portal. He picks the right guys. Last year, our wide receiver room needed a complete overhaul. It was so abysmal. He said, y'all out, let's bring new guys in, and it turned out very good for us. This year, he selected 2 guys in the portal, and he went a little bit smaller school, and then he went to Clemson. And Barnes, I think, is the key to this, because if Barnes can play safety well, and if he could bring what he had a couple of years ago, he had an injury that he dealt with the previous year. A couple of years ago, he was on pace to be all ACC and be world beater out there. It's the same thing as Christopher Smith when he came from West Virginia. Christopher Smith was an All-American at West Virginia, came over, became a high pick within the draft because of what Kirby developed. Barnes, I think, can be similar to that. He has the skill set. Is he healthy? Can you take the system? Because if he can lock down the safety or stars, depending on what he wants to do. We had a young kid last year, Rashawn Dinkins, that played early in the season, was horrible. Like, just straight up looked bad. By the end of the season, in the SEC championship game, he came up big. It seems right now that Dinkins is playing the other safety, and so the star position come down, the nickel guy that comes down the box and plays that. If Barnes and Riddle, if they can lock that down, holy geez. Now all of a sudden I don't have questions about this defensive back room. It is a little thin. It's top heavy. Ellis Robinson, I think, is going to have an all world season this year. KJ Bolden is the same thing. Those are two guys that could go top 20 in the draft. If we have just neutral, like don't be a liability from the transfers, right? That's all I'm asking. Just don't be. Dan Jackson. Y'all remember Dan Jackson was a walk-on, played strong safety for Georgia, and was incredible. Got drafted by the Lions. Dan Jackson is like the barometer, and he played above his station.
Yeah. If
we get that, the talent they have, I think they can. But yeah, defensively, look, I anticipate Oklahoma. I say this every single time to every fan base that comes in to Georgia, and even Ole Miss did this. Ole Miss, when they beat, I warn every fan base, it's going to be hard to run the ball in Athens against Kirby Smart. Yeah. You better pray your team does not abandon it. Because if Kirby Smart can make you one-dimensional, if he can shut off where you're like, oh, I don't want to run the ball anymore. We're only getting 2.8 yards per carry. Okay, you've played right into him and Glenn's hand. He will eat you alive. You have to keep running the ball up against this defensive front. And the front seven is our strongest suit, hands down. The linebacker's great. Raylan Wilson is a scraper. He's an eraser all over the place. Oklahoma, you better hope Brent Venables. And I don't think he will. I don't think he'll abandon the run because I know Brent. He ain't gonna. Want to keep it close. I think so. What is the offense going to excel at that Georgia and Glenn Kirby have to prepare for as they come into Athens?
I'm going to answer that. But before I do that, though, there is one player that I need to mention that Sooner fans know very well and are going to be very sad to see on the opposite side of the field. It's going to be Gentry Williams, who on College Football 27 has a speed of freaking 97. Yeah. So, like, as you mentioned, being top heavy, he may, as long as he's healthy shoulder-wise, he's going to add to that top heaviness. And that actually terrifies me. I'm not going to lie. Gentry is really good. Like, he even did well against Cam Coleman, who had a couple inches on him and some hops while he was still dealing with shoulder stuff. And he was terrorizing the heck out. Gentry's going to be fun to watch with you all. I hope that he gets like a stomach bug right before we play against him and he just got the poops and he can't play for the day. I'm cool with that. Just don't play against us. Stay your butt out. Man, but that is what
if he can keep healthy, he's going to play. Like Kirby Smart rotates corners, so he's going to play.
Yes.
If he can stay healthy, I think that's another. And I watch this, and you guys know he likes coming up in the run game. You talk about speed. He got speed, but he's a hit. He wants to bring the hammer. And so, yeah, absolutely. We're excited for him.
That was the one thing that Sooner fans loved about him, especially when he started playing as a freshman. He would just run up and hit people in the backfield, and they're like, "Oh, whoa, that's a harder hit than I've seen from a corner ever at Oklahoma." That's impressive. So, yeah. But I digress. For us, I think the thing that Ben Arbuckle, as now his second year here as offensive coordinator, he similar runs a kind of like Lane and Charlie Weiss Jr. and them does, air raid, Estique type offense. Goal is to get guys in space and let your speedsters do stuff like a Isaiah Satania, 96 speed on College Football 27. A guy that's really fast. He's a burner. He can go deep. He can also he can catch across the middle and outrun people. That is kind of what the goal is going to be there. Plus, as you mentioned, the one thing Oklahoma wants to do this season, and I think we'll see it against Michigan, and to me that tells us exactly how well things are going to go. They're going to want to run the ball. They're going to want to run the ball with John Mateer. They're going to want to run the ball with one of the 5 running backs that we're probably going to use in Xavier Robinson and Torrey Blaylock, who are our 2 sensations last year who stepped up. Avant, who we just brought in from the Lloyd Avant, who brought in from the portal from Colorado State. He played at Tulsa for one of our current analysts, Kevin Wilson, for the uninitiated here at Georgia. Kevin Wilson was the offensive coordinator for Oklahoma in the early 2000s all the way through. He has 2 Heisman Trophy winners in Jason White and Sam Bradford. He knows how to scheme up some offenses. He just couldn't really make it work at Indiana. He did it well at Ohio State. I think he actually won a ring with Urban Meyer there. But he also did really good with he did solid stuff at Oklahoma. At Tulsa. He's older, but he was an old school, old air raid guy too, putting up historical numbers or whatnot. He's back here as of last season as a special assistant, and he's been working with Ben and that. So to me, the power run and running the ball and pushing and being physical, as you know, Brent Venables is big on physicality. They're going to want to do that. And so they're going to want to push with Georgia, just like Georgia's going to want to push with us, which is a good thing. Like you said, I think it's going to be a low-scoring game. I think it's going to be a game where neither team abandons the run, but they're going to try to use it as a tool to get enough yards just to keep the chains moving. I don't really see a bunch of big plays as much as we're going to want to with a giant like Hayden Hansen at tight end who's going to draw attention in the middle. At 6'9", a 6'9" tight end, and people are going to really want to pay attention and watch him. Similar to even Rocky Bear's 6'5" tight end, who's pretty good across the middle, drawing that attention to where you could probably get like a Parker Livingston, the 6'4" wide receiver on the side, Isaiah Satania, the burner, or Trell Harris, who came from Virginia. He was one of the top wide receivers on that team that won the conference. You're going to see the ball spread out a bunch. So they're going to try to stretch Georgia out similar to what Ole Miss was doing in those games. But it's going to be so much fun to see this. Because this is going to be the chess match of the season. I don't even care about Red River like everybody else does. I'm going to be honest. I think we're going to push them around again. And if we have a healthy quarterback, we'll be fine.
Right now, somebody give me the line of the points that Sooners are catching, because I'm laying 3 units on the Sooners catching points in Red River. Really quick, Georgia fans, you might be thinking to yourself, if you haven't checked out the schedule, Oklahoma, what is their schedule? Michigan week 2, okay, hard, but UTEP before, New Mexico after, on the road, that's going to be huge. Then you come to Athens, but you have a bye week before you hit Red River, so huge. After that is Kentucky, Mississippi State, South Carolina. I don't think those are barn-burning teams this year at all. Florida, okay, you got to go to the swamp. Admittedly,
but it's a new coaching staff, so
100%.
Yes,
rebuild. Old Miss, but you catch them at home. Texas A&M at home. Missouri to end the season on the road. They're not. This is not a look ahead to Red River. They got a week to prepare for that. Okay, they are going to be fully locked into this and fully locked into Red River, and it is going to be the chess match. It's going to be what can Brent Venables do to get Glenn Schumann, get those linebackers going in the wrong direction. Because if there is a little seam somewhere to get them off direction, that's what killed. When Ole Miss, you said stretch it out, the power run game, and Ole Miss did not abandon it, and they got guys moving just a hair a fraction late. If you get them a hair a fraction late with play recognition, the world is your oyster, and that's going to be what Oklahoma is going to have to do to get us going, to get their offense going against.
Exactly. That is exactly what Ben and Brent and them is going to have to do to take advantage of those. It's going to be the little things that's going to make the difference in this game. Speaking of little things, so to answer your question really quick, Oklahoma is a 6.5-point dog against Texas at Red River. But this is funny. The juice is -110 on both. So I think Vegas has a feeling, and they're like, we're not giving you free money. You're going to have to work for it. You're going to work for it. But you rarely see a +6.5 at -110 juice. That is the wildest. That's on FanDuel, our partner. That is wild to me looking at this right now. We're a Vegas, +184 to win. Vegas they're manipulating something. They're playing games. Speaking of playing games, Brent Venables on that as the defensive coordinator against Mike Bobo. My goodness, that's going to be a fun one. Let's talk about it here on the crossover edition of Locked On Bulldogs, Locked On Sooners. And once again, thank you for making Locked On Bulldogs and Locked On Sooners your first listen every single day. Clint, we've got to talk about now Mike Bobo. And again, I'm looking at this side of the ball.
Yep.
You added Isaiah Canyon.
Yep.
You got a potential freshman at right guard I'm seeing here on our lads that they're looking at could be moving himself into the starting lineup, which isn't a bad thing.
No.
Sophomore. The line looks younger than people possibly may realize. True sophomores.
Yep.
2 seniors.
Yep.
And a true freshman. So of course the question is, what is this offensive line going to look? I don't know. There's too much veteran presence there to help with continuity for me to actually believe, because this line reminds me of Oklahoma's 100%. Yes. Marion Harris is a redshirt senior. At guard, we've got Ryan Fogier, who's a true sophomore. Center, we got Jake Michael, who's a senior, redshirt senior. Left guard, we got Eddie Pierre-Louis, redshirt sophomore. And then left tackle, we have true sophomore Michael Fasusi, former 5-star. So two similar setup for Oklahoma as it is with Georgia. How do you – I know – we talked about how you feel. You're feeling good about it. Wide receiver is the biggest question.
Yep.
Gunner Stockton is where I'm kind of curious about. I like his game because he does things to not make a bunch of mistakes. He makes big plays. He does make a bunch of mistakes, but he's not flashy. And I feel like that's where a lot of people are doubting him more than they should.
100%. Here's Gunner Stockton's the kryptonite to his game. And Brent Venables, if I'm going to be honest, this is what makes me want us to keep to the run, because Brent Venables can get you in blitz situations and make your first window close quick, your second windows close quick. And when Gunner Stockton, not reading the field when he has time, that I have every confidence in the world, back shoulder throws down the field, taking shots, waiting for long dig routes or post routes to develop flag routes. He's fine with that. When he gets windows closed, when it seems open, when they're playing games, when the linebacker starts fading and starts baiting you into throws, and the coverage flips, and now all of a sudden there's cloud coverage on one side, and you have to look the other, and they're coming up, they're creeping up on it. Gunner Stockton can at times. We saw it against Texas. He had a couple of throws that should have been receptions straight up, and I don't know what happened that wasn't. I'm very glad that wasn't the case, but he's fine normally. When Brent Venables, if he can have pressure come right up to him, because his greatest skill set, he is the toughest son of a gun
he really is.
Georgia's ever had, straight up. I, to this day, don't know how he held on to the ball after getting absolutely mollywopped in the SEC championship against Texas. I have no clue how he did not fumble the ball. He is the toughest quarterback we've ever had. When he gets pressure up, he can at times bail, but he slows down a bit, and he believes in his toughness of taking that pressure. And window 1, window 2, when he goes to window 3, it might be a pick. That's where he's been inaccurate is probably the best description for that. And so I think what's really going to be huge in this game, again, the young, talented wide receivers are going to have to beat man coverage. Like, that's at the end of the day, they have to get off those coverage on outside, inside leverage. I don't know what they're going to do with the rollover safety, but they have to beat the man off the line of scrimmage for corner against Oklahoma. If that's the case, and also Elijah Williams, tight end, talk about a matchup nightmare. Y'all talking about 6'9" guys. This guy is a physical freak as well. He's a matchup nightmare. Pro throw, this new kid, we're putting him at the slot. And
pro throw, yes.
Y'all.
Is he related to the other pro throw that went to Bama? He's not related, are they? Can't be. Can't be his child, is it? Don't tell me I'm that old, am I?
I would never tell you that, Jay, because that means I'm in the same boat as you, and I refuse to believe that. No, he's going to be slot this year. They're going to throw him out. He's going to do some motion down to H, come on down. But it's going to be power run game to set up the play action, and as well as talk about Mears again. You talk about John Mateer in the run game. Gunner Stockton's going to be in the run game a great deal more. The depth of this offensive line. Right now, rumor is Ike Helton probably at right guard, which means that Juan Gaston goes from right guard that he played last year along with Dontrell Glover, both true freshmen. Dontrell Glover stays at left guard. He goes out. Juan Gaston goes out to right tackle. Ike Helton comes in for right guard. Drew Bobo is a animal at center. He's not flashy. It's like Cedric Van Pran, but he is not flashy, but he is the heartbeat of this offensive line. Monroe Freeling is a huge get at left tackle. I think he's going to be just fine in so many starts under his belt. So those are the two kind of statesmen, veteran, two guys that were all SEC as true freshmen. And then you got Ike Hilton, who, if we felt good enough to kick Juan Gaston out to right tackle, it's because he played. Listen, Georgia fans, I love Juan Gaston. It means Ike Hilton was playing better right guard than Juan Gaston. I'm not saying he's a better player. I'm just saying he played right guard better, which is why he's leading the charge. That's crazy to me. So, yeah, huge. I believe that we have a lot. But Brent Venables, though, I give him a lot of credit. I think he can neutralize a lot of what I just said. The defense for Oklahoma is stacked up front.
It is, and what's crazy about it is that Oklahoma's returning all internal players on the defense to play. Like, it's wild that, like, so Owen Heineke is technically a transfer. He played lacrosse at Ohio State. He didn't play football. He played lacrosse. He's from Oklahoma, from the state. He went to high school up in the Tulsa area. He transferred in, walked on, and he just showed out so much last season, last couple of years actually, but last season he was an animal. He's the one that forced the fumble against Tennessee that R. Mason Thomas returned for a touchdown. He blitzed, hit Joey Aguilar, ball bounced R. Mason's arm, and R. Mason runs at 70-something yards for a tutty. He's an animal when it comes to that. You get him back. You get Kip Lewis right there in the middle, who is the heartbeat of the defense, of calling plays. He's your Mike. He's going to push everything. You got a bunch of other big guys, former 5-star HPG Adeboare. He'll be there next to David Stone. So you got those two dudes in the interior. Jaden Jackson, big-time 4-star that just stuffs the middle at the nose. He'll be about 320 and stupid athletic. He's like he's a tasty, great value version of Vita Vea. He's just not as big.
Oh,
he's athletic. He's just not as big as Vita Vea. But he's athletic. So you put him out there running back, he'd be terrifying. But then of course Taylor Wine. What Oklahoma has is that front seven is just insane. And then of course the biggest one is that cheetah roll with Reggie Powers, who likes to hit people. Like you mentioned about Gentry, that's the best part that we've loved about him. We've loved about players on this defense is that they love to run up and thump somebody. Yep. Reggie Powers, and I bet you in our free safety, Michael Boganowski, we call him Baba Yaga because that's what he is. He's the boogeyman when he runs around on the field. I've seen him hit people and people just fold. And I think him and Reggie Powers always have bets on the game to see who can hit the hardest and get the loudest pop. Because every time one does it, the other one loses their mind on the sideline. But similar to Georgia, this is what helps Oklahoma. Now, if you go look at the numbers, you'll be like, well, Jay, not a lot of snaps here coming back for you all, right? Just not a whole bunch.
Sure.
Well, what Oklahoma does is, similar to Georgia, we rotate a lot.
Yes. And
our rotations get so deep that you'll see some younger players, if a freshman knows the playbook, and they say, you know what? They throw them in the fire, key third down, they'll put them in the game and say, show me what you got.
Yep.
And you're going to seek a swim. And they'll go out there. A lot of them we've seen them perform. You're like, oh, okay. So instead of having guys play 7, 8, 900,000 snaps in a season, our highest guys usually around 600, maybe. And you're seeing a whole bunch of guys in the 400 range together to be able to not only be fresh, but also make sure everybody understands it. Because as you know, just like Kirby and the way Saban was, even when Kirby was there at Alabama, the defense is complex. It's really tough to get in and crack the rotation if you don't know what the heck you're doing. No. It's a challenge. Brent Venables is similar. It's so challenging, especially in the linebacker room, because that is literally the room where it's like, oh, this Brent Venables. So we went out there and got Cole Sullivan, Michigan's best linebacker, and we brought him on down the line. And he's going to be a backup to start. He was a starter at Michigan. He's going to rotate. But because we rotate so much, you'll see him a lot. The front seven is going to be fun because I know you all are going to run the ball. Yeah. That to me is just inevitable. The question is going to be, and I don't think that Bobo's going to abandon it. You know, I know Georgia fans, y'all be fighting about Bobo. That is the funniest thing in the world to me.
Really quick, I just quickly the last 5 years at Georgia, it was the fifth best offense, the third best offense, the second best offense, the third best offense, the third best offense. And every single one of those years, there were new people ahead of Georgia the entire time. So the consistency from Bobo and the SEC offense is unlike any other school. Period.
Thank you. And that's and honestly, anyway. I'm gonna be honest, George, that's a good thing because you're gonna have a bunch of pseudo quote unquote fad type offenses or something that just get flash in the pan. Sure. And they're going to jump up. Like, I like Josh Heupel. I don't have a problem with him over there at Tennessee. I think he's good. I mean, he's our former quarterback. So, of course, I got a little love for the guy.
Yeah.
His offense is always going to do this depending on what quarterback he has in there.
Yes.
I've noticed with Bobo, no matter who the quarterback is, you're going to stay consistent. That line is like this, which is a lot less stressful in comparison to having a whole bunch of random stuff go on.
Kirby, again, Oklahoma fan, Kirby does not care about covering the spread. He's literally been asked about this before. And he will say, I have no idea what you're talking about. And I really believe him that a 1-point win, a 30-point win to him is the same exact thing. It's a W. So all he cares about is, can I play this game close enough and not make mistakes and be consistent to get a W at the end of this game is marked. I'm so thrilled for it. I'm so glad it matches up this way. This is going to be such a fun time, Jay. It's legitimately might be game of the year when all is said and done.
It might actually be that, and it may be one of those. It won't be like it was at the Rose Bowl. It'll probably be more in the 20s for both teams. It's going to be a lot of stops. It's going to be a lot of clock burning. That is what excites me about this matchup. So glad that we was able to get just an initial taste for you all of who to keep your eyes out for, who to pay attention to. Make sure you go over there. Listen to Locked On Bulldogs with my guy Clint. You can also check me and actually Clint and Daniel over there at Locked On Bulldogs. You can check me out, Jay Smith, as well as my co-host John Williams over at Locked On Sooners. And we'll definitely have a preview before the game. That'll be, it's 4 weeks before, into the season, and so at that point, so many other things will be established. But we wanted to make sure we wet your palates today. And that'll do it for today's crossover edition of Locked On Bulldogs, Locked On Sooners. Thank you all for tuning in and joining us and watching the show. Subscribe to the show wherever you get your podcasts, as well as on YouTube. Hit the like, subscribe, and the bell notification so you don't miss anything whenever it drops. So for Clint, I'm Jay. We will see you all. What's that? End of September? End of September. Yep.